All right, we're back online. My power blipped out,
Yeah, okay.
and but we're good. And here we go. We were talking about getting Matt Mercer as a guest for Fanaticon, but I want to
Cliffhanger.
yeah. Well, I want to bring up something that I think about sometimes that I'm kind of glad didn't happen because I don't know how I would have been able to handle it. But I remember when Phil Lamar came to the last one, and you were like hinting at the idea of maybe getting him into the live D&D show that we were
Oh
doing.
my god, yes.
And I'm like, at the time, I'm gonna be honest with you, I wasn't really sure who Phil Lamar was. And I was like, sure, let's get this other guy going here. He's like, you kind of told me about him, but like going back and like after the fact, I think I even did it the day after the show. I was like, Phil Lamar, who's Phil Lamar? Oh my god,
Yeah.
I don't know how I would have been able to handle that.
I was wondering because when he mentioned that to me, I'm like, Travis, that would be amazing. And Travis was like, yeah, it would. Not like,
Yeah, and Phil
Travis, you don't
Lamar,
understand.
coming full circle, Phil Lamar has been a guest star on Critical Role,
Right.
and anyway, so
I'm like, Travis, we could have been up there with all those other nerds.
That could have
We
been our big
the
break.
guys.
yeah, so
I
but
mean, you think about all the traffic we got a few years ago before that when we had Jason Marsden did an interview with us.
yeah.
Like, people were like, who are these guys? And Jason Marsden likes them and all that kind of stuff.
Jason Marsden's our
Right.
friend.
Exactly.
Which I'll occasionally tag him on stuff and on like Instagram or something. It's been a while since I've done it, but every blue moon I'll do it and he'll respond and be like, hey man, how you guys doing?
Yeah.
You know,
It was
super.
That was a big year for Two Beards Play, man. That was a big year.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would like to say that we've been doing this Two Beers thing for how many years, Trey?
About 5, 6, something
5,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, are we like rolling in the deep with subscribers? No, but I will
Deeper
tell
than
you,
we ever have been.
I will tell you, just kind of going back to what Phil was talking about with the narrative and the community that was built around Fanatics. How many times are we out and about in the local area and people just yell, Two Beards?
Yes.
Like,
Nice.
last time we were in Troy, we were filming table scraps, and we go through the drive-through line at Chick-fil-A. It was me, Trey, and Natalie. I think the whole crew was in there, maybe, in the car. And the guy checking us there in the Chick-fil-A drive-through was like, "Oh my God, is that Two Beards Play in there?" And I just look at Trey. I'm like, "Who are these people?"
I'm like, man, we're locally semi-known. I don't know what to tell you.
And that right there, like, you know, we may never, have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, whatever. I don't care. The impact and the community and the things that we've been able to do here and form that little family that's plenty for me.
Yeah.
Like,
and one of the greatest things that ever happened for me in this whole journey was at Fanaticon, and we had these two kids walk up to us, and they're like, "Oh, your Two Beards playing da 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 da," and they told us it's because of you guys that we started our own YouTube channel, because they were like, we really appreciate that you guys are like professed Christian nerds, like y'all have your faith and you do things in a way that we don't have to worry about compromising what we're taking in and stuff like that. And they said that really got us inspired to do our own thing. Clean
Awesome.
YouTubing was not a thing pretty much when we were doing it. We started doing it. It was before all the rules for kids videos and stuff like that. And so when they were like, we started this because of what y'all do, and I was like, whoa.
That's awesome.
Whoa, you
Yeah.
know? And I'm sure you've had stuff like that, Phil, with the Fanatics stuff, getting people plugged in and doing things, and they tell you, I came into your store and you were nice to me, so I started doing this thing,
That's always the goal. You want to hear those kind of stories for sure. It's like being a teacher, but you're a nerd teacher. You're a
Yeah.
game shop teacher.
Yeah.
yeah.
I keep looking over now, and I'm like, oh, we're not off, are we?
Oh, no.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Too,
So
too explosive to contain.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it is gnarly outside.
I can almost hear it in your background.
Yeah, I'm in the office shed out here, and I'm just staring out the window, and the trees are like flopping around like fish. Oh man. So taking a little, I don't know, this D&D related or tabletop RPG related, but did we talk about this, Trey? Where Matt Mercer is making his own RPG system, tabletop RPG system. I'm super pumped. I always bring him up because I think I pretty much learned everything as far as DMing goes through not Matt Mercer. I'm sorry, Matt Colville. Always.
Yeah, okay. I was about it's like Mercer's making his own system?
That.
What?
No, I'm pretty sure he's paid way too well to worry about that through his partnership with but no, Matt Mercer. Everything.
Koval.
Yeah. Dang it.
Matt Koval, we swear, Matt, we like your stuff. Come on the show.
Colville. I'm just
We'll
gonna start
correct-
saying Colville.
We'll just correct the information down in the doobly-doo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
down
go.
the
Thank you. That tickles my heart there. Yeah. So I'm pumped about that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of those on the short list. Like if we dreamed and had people come on Two Beards and did more
Oh,
interviews
I-
in the vein of this.
I wouldn't be able to contain myself. I would fangirl so hard if Matt Colville was on this podcast. Like,
Well, there we go, buddy. I'm gonna make it my goal to get you Matt Koval. I'm gonna start reaching out. I'm gonna start hitting up his people.
no,
you know,
his,
and
but
we'll-
for real, his running the game series he does on his YouTube is just
It's a
like
good one.
such good content, and he's just, I mean, he's been around since basically the beginning of the hobby, and
Right.
Yeah.
wealth of knowledge. I've got I've got one of his books, but I want to get his 5e monster supplement, and then of course I'll jump on the Kickstarter for the system whenever that rolls around.
Very cool.
So I know this might be future plans or whatever, Phil, but as far as next steps with the publishing or the game you guys are working on, is that something you guys foresee yourself doing, like getting the product close to finish and doing maybe like exclusive Kickstarter funding, or like, you know?
We have a roadmap for like 3 separate products right now. Hierophant will be its own entity, almost like its own LLC probably eventually. So
Gotcha.
that project is kind of running alongside Fanatix publishing projects. Pretty much all the projects will be ultimately geared towards Kickstarter or community funding of some sort. You know, it may not be Kickstarter, but that is the one
Right.
most people know about.
Yeah.
So that's on its own track, and then we have a couple other projects on the side that are indie publishing print projects that may or may not go to Kickstarter first. We may just get the content and produce the book and take it to conventions to sell, and just start producing content. Like, not everything has to be Kickstarted
Yeah.
for what we're trying to do, but yeah. So the card game is definitely on the road to Kickstarter right now, with the World Book first, probably in Q2. And then the game itself in Q4, hopefully. And then our other projects, though, are a lot more loose right now. They're not like, there's no strict due dates for them. And I can talk about some of those if you guys want to. It's up to y'all. It's your show. But that's
Oh no, we're totally down for that. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
because you know we kind of talked about what you want to put out there and what, because we really want to help you like spread the word with your stuff and everything that you got going on. Emily in the chat said it's pretty beautiful that storytelling has been a common thread within these worlds y'all have created, and that y'all have come full circle to that passion now that it's time to dream and create it again. Which is great. I think it really is, and I know you've been on a journey on, it kind of dropped off, and you kind of had to drop back in punt and take care of some things.
literally.
Yeah. And then it just all sort of came back, and at least from our perspective, it seemed like all at once. It was like, Phil's back, girl.
Yeah. It definitely was all at once, kind of, but it's been a 3-year process to figure out what to do next, honestly.
Mhm.
So I tried going back to the old day job. Just wasn't for me. I was a branch
Yeah.
manager. I worked in the credit union industry for about 12 years. I had an adult job. It was like a real career, awesome career. And it's like, I try not to disparage it because it's a great job for some people, but not everyone is suited for that type of work. And so it just wasn't for me. But
Yeah.
yeah. So it was kind of a decision to kind of go all out all at once and just like announce the rebranding, launch Hierophant, and we have, you know, I just got new artwork this week to put on social media like next month for the other projects. So it's gonna hopefully keep snowballing and people be like, okay, there's something going on here. It's not just like a random idea. Like it's been in the works for a while. So
Yeah, Emily said, adult jobs can steal your soul.
yes, they
Yeah,
can.
they can. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And it's interesting because, you know, I feel like that's kind of a common thread in the nerd community. You know, we all have these passions and these love for these things that are not, like, mainstream. But we can't shake them. We can't let it go. Like, you know, if credit union work would have been your thing, you would still be doing that. But you kept coming back to the stories. You kept coming back to the games. It's just part of it, what we do.
Yeah, and I will say that, like, just to kind of make sure that everyone who hears this understands, like, there is nothing wrong with, like, working hard at a job that you don't identify with if it helps you do the other things you love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fuel your
Absolutely.
fuel
But
your
if you
passions.
don't want, yeah, but if you do not want to have, like, mental anguish, do not own your own business for a decade and then try to go back to that. It's really hard. And I don't mean to sound spoiled. I mean, like, Fanatix was awesome, and it provided for me and Jeannie. And, like, we were not, you know, it's not like it was a lifestyle thing. It was just a creative freedom thing. And so leaving that, you think, oh, I'll just go back to my day job. It'll be fine. I'll just do my hobbies after 5 p.m. It just doesn't work, though.
It's sort of...
You got to find your groove, and you got to get into it. So there's
Yeah,
nothing wrong with any type of groove, but you just got to be careful what you leave and come back to, because it's not always going to be what you remember.
Yeah, it's sort of like you took the plunge and saw behind the curtain, and now you can't put the curtain back. You know, it's like you just can't. You know that world. But I applaud you for sticking with it and really going after this, because you kind of do the stuff that, I'm gonna be honest, like, I wish I could do. Like, I wish I could be in the publishing world and all that different kind of stuff. So
I mean, you can be. You will be if you like, contribute. Like, I'm telling you, like, we're gonna have some projects. That's a good segue to our one of the most D&D adjacent projects we're gonna launch this year. And I just got 3 pieces of high resolution artwork. What we're gonna be, because as you guys know, I'm an English major, so I do love reading and writing. I've always loved it. You know, I have scribbles of stories, as most of us do, from when we were a kid. And so, because we're back to that realm of trying to turn it into a job, like, how do we make money off this? We don't want to just have a singular product offering, you know, and then be done with it. We're trying to create, like, an ongoing cyclical environment where independent creators can be involved. So as an English major, one thing that we tend to have to review, or we end up reading one thing, are things called literary journals, or chapbooks, or some people just call them zines, literary magazines, where people send in short stories, poetry of a particular genre, whatever the current request is, and then someone compiles those short stories and publishes them, whether it's quarterly, biannually, maybe once a year. And then the literary journals goes out to their clientele, and people have a good time, and you're now a published author, and people read your stuff, and maybe it opens up some opportunities for you in the future. So then one of my advanced creative writing classes, we're keeping a journal of ideas, which is easy for me because we already do that. But I started thinking back on the days when we had Into the Realm and, you know, joint narrative storytelling. So I was like, okay, how about a literary journal, but that's geared towards only tabletop content? So your prose, poetry, short stories, but they have to be related to a tabletop game or setting. And then so you so maybe you have a particular NPC that you just love, but, you know, maybe it doesn't get the spotlight in your games all the time. But you have this character that you really love. Like, this character, everyone needs to know about this NPC that I came up with, and he's so cool and creative, and the way he talks is unique. Okay, well, what does that look like on a one-pager, on a short story? You send that to us, and, you know, we put it in once a quarter, maybe twice a year. We're not going to be stuck to any timelines because I don't want to, like, overdo it, but I don't want to underwhelm either. We're going to gather up people's contributed materials and then put them in this anthology once every couple months and publish it. And then we'll also be doing artwork for that, original artwork. Some stories may get free artwork consigned to go with it, to go in the book. And so, yeah, it's very old school, very much like the old D&D magazines, like Polyhedron. RPGA Association magazines.
I'm thinking of, like, Fantasy Realms from back in the day. Oh man, I mean, you're plucking all my heartstrings right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds so cool.
I think I've got one sitting back there, but so anyways, that's the idea. So everyone can contribute. Maybe you have a short adventure you want to share, a character write up. Maybe you just have a couple magical items that you want to write and let other people use in their games and then tag you or what, what have you. And we'll compile all that and publish it in a biannual literary journal called Ins and Outs. So INNS and outs, ins and outs. And then, it'll just be a joint effort. It doesn't have to be of a particular genre. It'll just be all manners of, hey, what do you contribute to your game? Let's put it together in a very nostalgic, old school format. I mean, look, the internet's great. And I know everyone can go find what they need to on websites and blogs and Instagram. And I get it.
Yeah.
But sometimes we just love the tactile nature of finding a paper booklet that our friends made, and we just want to flip through it. Maybe take it to work, put it on our desk, and so that's the goal there. And of course, we want to feature beautiful fantasy artwork. And so I'm talking to some great artists, and then what we'll do is an open call to dungeon masters basically, or players. I mean, if a player has a particular, maybe they're proud of their level 20 character that they had some interesting adventure happen years ago. If they just want to reminisce, if it's of a literary quality that we could publish,
right,
then let's share it with people. I mean, there are people who would enjoy reading that. Maybe it gives them inspiration for something in their game, and that's kind of the idea with Ins and Outs. So I'm looking forward to that one for sure.
Man, keep me on that email list.
Yeah.
I would love to contribute little things like that.
There could be a Two Beards column in there.
No.
I'm serious. I'm serious. That's how it's going to work. It's community oriented.
I love it.
Maybe if it's a short write up of a review of a game, or maybe you guys want to review a book and, do a book review, like an RPG tabletop book review.
Right.
If I think I got one right here. Let me look real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. This would be a good time.
I was gonna say could do poetry by dwarves.
Dude, dwarvish poetry. Oh my gosh, we do a
exactly.
dwarvish poetry.
It has to be
so
written,
good.
But you need to write it needs to be in character. You know what
right.
I'm saying?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So here's an old one, and I'll actually be kind of streaming some of this. Now I just grabbed this randomly off my shelf. I have a ton of these. This one's called Maelstrom. It's a bi-monthly role-playing magazine, and it's just got different articles, and it's so nostalgic. And I know print is dead, as they said in Ghostbusters in the 80s, but it's just fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they said the same thing about vinyl records, and they still make those, is all I'm saying.
Exactly.
Because people want them.
And it's ours won't be black and white, though. Ours will be, of course, full color. It'll probably feel like a magazine. It might feel more like a graphic novel. I haven't decided on the final format yet.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a lot of fun. So if anyone remembers these books from the 80s,
very much so. I lived off of those. That was the only fantasy literature I got when I was a real young child, because I didn't just have a lot of access to this. And I remember going to the bookstore and getting Realms of Fantasy. Oh my gosh, Visions. I haven't seen a Visions in years. But I used to get these magazines and read these stories and just be like, this is so cool. I love this. It really kind of helped spark my love of literature. There it is. That is it. Realms of Fantasy. I used to live off of that magazine, man. Oh, that is so cool that you have that.
it's just fun,
It's just stories and artwork, and it really got the gears going for me as a young teenager. Emily said orc poetry would be even better.
Absolutely, orc poetry.
Yeah, orc poetries would be great.
I mean, if those magazines are going to be RPG or kind of that centered theme. I mean, there's so many cool things you could put on there. I could see submitting really cool NPC ideas people can yoink out for their game.
This is an old polyhedron. I mean, maybe there will be a cartoonist in the community who wants to do a nerd forward cartoon. I know you can't see it; it's too bright, but that's okay because I don't want to show anything I'm not supposed to, anyways. Here's this old article back in the day. The Living Galaxy, a stellar game master is made, not born. Read. The first steps in becoming a good GM. I love this information, and yes, it's online. We get that. There's tons of, you can go watch a YouTube video right now and get all the information you need. That's fine. But there's something that's more magical about creating a document that exists in the real world that you can then when Two Beards goes to a convention, you can have, if you guys have a column, you can have a stack of them at your table, and you have something to sell, to make a little money for your. So like that's the goal. It should be a lot of fun. It's going to be challenging. Artwork is really expensive, obviously, so that's going to be. But if the community's behind it and everyone likes it, I imagine we can probably get some subscriptions to make this happen.
Yeah, either that or you even have local artists who do this kind of stuff. Like, I just want to get my name out there. Can you just give me stuff to do and I'll draw it and you put it out there with my name on it? Yeah, buddy, we can.
For sure. And for open call submissions, though, we do want to be a paying market. We would like to compensate people for any contributions, and if someone says absolutely I want to volunteer, okay, we may let them, but we'll try to compensate everyone. I've talked to some of Kat Murray, who just did her senior thesis exhibit. She has a master's in fine art now, I believe. I hope it's MF. I'm not sure if I got that right, but I was asking her, I was like, hey, I'm kind of familiar with the literary side of things, but what happens if I have a creative person give me an illustration to use? How much should I compensate them? And so she's been helping me kind of figure out the prices for that. But then, of course, if we see, like, if someone writes an orc poem and we're like, this is the best orc poetry I've ever read, maybe, Fanatix company will pay for the artwork and pick an artist, and we'll try to pair and do some, to kind of show our chops as far as like creative direction. So it's like, to hopefully build this thing up. So we'll see.
From the publishing aspect, that's just good synergy. Like, this is really good. This caught our attention. We want it to catch our readers' attention, so we're going to throw some artwork on it to kind of draw the eye to that and stuff like that.
Right.
That's just smart marketing. Emily had a good question I was interested to hear just from everybody. With the creative process and the writing process that y'all are living right now, what does that look like in a typical day? How many hours a day are spent creating?
I mean, does it ever stop, really? Like
Yeah.
No, you have to kind of be ready to work whenever you have the ideas.
Yeah.
But like I literally had, I know you can't see it, I'm sorry, but I literally had to build myself a schedule in my phone because I do have more of that. I'm prone to distraction, and like my attention will get drawn to many places. So I had to like build myself like a structured day to work on it. Now, of course, this was like pre-college. But essentially what I try to do is, like, in the beginning of the day, like when you first wake up, you want to try and get to a journal or a computer and free write. Just write things that come to your mind. It can be personal or it can be a creative idea. The idea is to just build those habits of writing first thing in the day to kind of just get some of those fresh ideas. Maybe you had an idea last night. It's just to build those habits in the morning. And then I try to read a lot. For sure. It's hard to do these days because the internet is, keeps us distracted. So it's all about reading and writing and building those habits. But as far as like a set amount of time, it's really weird because there is no set amount of time. You just have to kind of be in the zone. And then when you're working on it, you're working on it. And when the idea comes to you, but I do try to write. It's kind of like Neil Gaiman's routine. I think he doesn't start writing till like 1:00. And then he'll go till 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. Like in the morning, you need to try and be unstructured and write some ideas, jot things down, kind of get errands done. And then like after lunch, I try to settle in and I just work on stuff from like 1 till 5. And then I have to go to school. So right now, I'd say about 4 hours a day is just at the computer. And sometimes it's not even just being creative. It's revising ideas. You may have written something and then you go back and read it and you have to edit it. Mm-hmm. And that is probably the most challenging aspect, is structuring that. And so hopefully once I'm done with school in July, I'll actually have more of a structured day. But school is kind of cool because I get to double dip,
Yeah, because you get like, I had this idea, I want to do this for the creative writing class kind of thing,
100%. Yeah, I wrote the first, like I finished a character arc for one of the comic books for a short story assignment. And it's, it's not illegal to do that. It was actually cool.
It's your stuff.
Paying a lot of money to Troy University for this class, so it's like their feedback is welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting when, because like Travis said, it never really stops. It's like a constant thing.
No, so I have a notebook on my bedside table that it just, when the ideas come, it just... I've got one notebook, not trying to plug into the publishing thing, but I've had this idea for a board game for the past 3 years that I've been working on slowly, and I've for real have filled up a notebook with rules and ideas and systems, and it's grown, and
Fanatix wants to be at a point where we can say, okay, let's look at these ideas from our own community and then help pay for some of the legwork that it takes to get them off the idea. And you could always, or get them off the ground, not off the idea.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
You know, basically become like what Image Comics was to the comic book world to our own local community. We don't want to. I know eventually we're going to have to probably like focus on some topic. We can't print everything,
Right.
But I mean, we're going to at first we're going to kind of just dip our toe in everything and learn as much as we can. But that's definitely the idea where it's like, oh, you have an idea for a board game, let's pitch it and see if we have room to do that and go from there. You know, and everyone still owns what if they want to do it independently, they could. But if they want to partner, you know, with someone that can help go down those steps, then that's what we're going to be there to do.
Yeah.
Later on in the year and into 2024 for sure.
Yeah, I find myself because you know my day job is I'm a teacher. Like I have to be in there from like 6:30 or 6:45 to like 3:30 in the afternoon. But I'll be in the middle of doing stuff, and I don't like to give them too many credits, but middle schoolers come up with some crazy stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
So whenever I hear something, I'll downplay it and I'll be like, interesting idea. And then I'm like, all right, everybody do yada yada yada, and then I'm over at my desk like scribbling furiously. So I get these ideas and I have to balance it because it's like you don't want your boss to know that you're building a tabletop world while you're on the clock, but you kind of like keep up with your stuff so that you could flesh it out a little bit later. And I love the prospects, the ideas that all of this could be has got me very excited just for our local nerd community. You know, like we get to keep doing what we love, and it actually feels, it's not like it's never not meaningful, but now it feels even more so because we're in it together. You know what I'm saying? Like we're in this together, we're doing the things we love, and I'm just sort of like, hey, that's how Gygax started. It was him and his friends in a basement coming up with a game they wanted to play. And I'm like, man, that's so great. And I love the idea that you're wanting to get stuff out there and have things where people can just be like, I had this idea. What do you think about it? You know, and things like that.
And if it's like directly related to tabletop gaming and is somewhat of a text-based product, then maybe Ins and Outs is a good booklet to submit to get the first draft off the ground. You know, before you go writing a brand new original adventure setting or something, maybe just because ideas are great and everyone has a ton of ideas, but they're kind of worthless, you know, if you think about it. Like, it's the getting it to existence is like the hard part. The ideas, all of us have ideas, but getting them to the real world. If I can just provide a single stepping stone for someone else to do that, then that is what makes me want to sit in an office all day for 8 hours to make a product that does that. Because then we're all winning at that point, I guess. You know, and yes, I need to make a living, so I just can't. You know, I don't want to just publish only my stuff. I'd have more fun in the spirit of Fanatix publishing everyone else's stuff. And I mean, of course, mine will be there too. But you know, that's the goal, anyways. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I get that whole the from the idea to conception where you actually have a thing. You know, I'm part of a group that we just sat around and talked about board games and tabletop games and stuff like that. And so we came up with this system that we thought was really cool in this really cool setting. And I created this whole big document for this role-playing system, and we started playing it and everything. But then I reached a point where I was like, what the heck do I do now?
Right.
I have this thing. What do I do? Who do I call? You know? And so I love that you guys love to take that and move it to the next phase, or help people move it to the next phase, because I don't know, there's something wonderful about it. There really is. Do people need to copyright their ideas before submitting Ask Emily? Like if you, like say I'm approaching Fanatix Publishing, I have said idea. Right. If my said idea blows up, should I have that in place before I approach you?
Our model of publishing will be creator owned, so like you will still own the rights to anything you produce. And so it's up to whether you've copyrighted it or not. That is totally your call. Now, if it's never been published before and you've never submitted it to anywhere else, and it's published in the literary journal, you are still, you know, de facto, you are the copyright owner, right? Because you wrote that. But you need to protect yourself accordingly to however you feel is necessary. As I am not a lawyer, right? But
right.
essentially, if that's something you're concerned about, then definitely do that ahead of time, and do some research in the game world too, because not everything is actually like game mechanics. You can't actually copyright certain game mechanics.
Right.
That's I can't tell you to use a D20, like that's Phil's idea.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, like I it's kind of your call to do that. And some literary journals require you not to have pre-published in anything else. Like they want to be the first instance of that existing. And a lot of times these are smaller projects that usually don't rise to the level of needing copyright protection if that's not already built in by, the way it works,
Yeah. And copyright laws, because, I've looked into this being a writer and all different kinds of stuff. Copyright laws are finicky. Like you don't put copyrights on an NPC. That's one thing. But if you had a whole book about this NPC, now you need some copyright because you've put work into this. So I encourage anyone, look into copywriting, know what you need to do. And like Phil said, if you feel like you've got something and you don't want the chance of something happening to it, try to slap a copyright on it.
Those are great questions, though. And a lot of times that kind of stuff is what we will probably get advice from people beyond our scope of profession. We'll have lawyers or editors that will help us with that stage of the projects too. Yeah. So,
but I imagine if say someone approached you with a great idea and you guys were helping that, I'm sure y'all would even be willing to help people in the copyright process.
Yeah, I mean we've done it before. Like when I was publishing some other comics and games, like we Fanatix bought the ISBN numbers and the UPC codes and made it all legit, but that was back in like 2014, so now it's even been a while for us there. We got to get back on the horse and get back to it. I don't even think I have that account anymore with the ISBN numbers because we bought like a big batch of them because they can be kind of pricey.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not pricey to everybody, but if you're a young up and coming artist, it can seem expensive,
Yeah.
But we'll figure that out.
Emily's chiming in again. I'm trying to make sure I'm not double reading her stuff. She said, our friend Scott has written a book within the realm of the game system we all created. So the idea is we created this gaming system, and then he wrote a novel and published it. So he has a copyright within that world, and the game would probably need its own copyright. Like the novel has its own copyright, but the game would be another thing altogether.
That's interesting. Right. Yeah, that's getting pretty interesting territory right there.
Yeah.
Which I mean is kind of I mean isn't that, I did not follow this closely, but wasn't that kind of the controversy around like people's live streaming D&D? It's like you're creating content that's based around not your intellectual property. I don't know if that was an issue or not.
Yeah, it was for the longest time. Like when Critical Role got big and some of these other people were doing this, people were like, are they really creating anything? Or are they using Wizards of the Coast? Well, it became a non-issue when Critical Role partnered with Wizards of the Coast, And but there have since been things put in place saying, no, you can use it. It falls under free use law and stuff like that. Right. But it would be interesting because the novel, it's called The Watch of Traxxas. It's really good. I recommend it, not just because I helped create it, but it's an interesting story and all those different kinds of things. And we came up with the system. What makes the system unique is that it uses a 2d20 system, and they have degrading dice. And I don't want to get too far off of that, but if anybody's interested in that, I will do a show about it, and we'll talk about the degrading dice system that we came up with. But I love those ideas. So you've got this publishing thing, and you want to do these magazines and get all of that. Is there anything else that you got coming up in the works that you're excited about?
I
know that's a loaded question.
No, well, I mean, there's only really, more stuff will be published soon on the Fanatix page, but like for anyone interested in like locally generated self-published content, definitely follow Fanatix Publishing for more. What I'm excited about is finishing school so I can work on it full time, because I'm still technically, it's still kind of back on the back burner. Not really, because school is school, but you know what I mean. It's not my whole existence right now. But the most thing I'm excited about is our adventure comic called Metal Kid, which is that's not really D&D related, but it has some nerdy, imagery in it. So D&D fans will probably like it by default. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings meets Tenacious D in a way.
Those are two things I'd never thought of.
That's the short pitch is like, everyone is familiar with black metal, the genre black metal.
Yeah.
And if you remember in the 80s, there was the Satanic Panic with metal, and just like it with D&D, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the question you have to ask yourself is like, what if people weren't wrong, and like particular bands might have been promoting some magical energy that wasn't friendly, and so and then what happens if but what happens when the inverse happens to that too, and someone is chosen to kind of help fight back the evil hordes, right? So it's very nerdy. It plays on existing drama within the whole satanic panic of D&D and 80s metal and black metal, and kind of just puts it on its head with a huge overarching backstory, which is basically Lord of the Rings meets Tenacious D, I guess you could say.
I'm totally down. Makes me think of that video game that Jack Black put out, Brutal Legends, and I'm just
Brutal
like,
Legends.
I love that game. People, it was so underplayed.
Yeah,
I was
it was
like,
good.
there's a great narrative in here that people are overlooking.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that one. It still has a little ways to go before it'll get published, but it's really fun. And then two of the other like more indie projects that may be available sooner than later because they're just going to be small zines, like little gaming booklets. You won't have to buy it. Is one, it's a standalone kind of role-playing game, but very much fiction forward and very loose. It's almost more of like an improv acting booklet than it is a role-playing game, but that is essentially what role-playing is, right? And it's called 100 Minutes at the End of the Earth. And so everyone will generate their characters, maybe, and you can kind of take the system as far as you want to, and you can generate whatever you need to, like how the level of improvisation that you want to have. You can roll up like character interests, belief systems, what have you, and then there will be a setting that will happen, and then a actual timer of 100 minutes will happen, and characters will gain the knowledge that the Earth is ending in some variety of ways, and everyone has to play out their characters' emotions, actions. Do they try to save the Earth? Do they try to just reminisce? Do they complain? Like, it's really kind of just it may be like a side tool that people could use for maybe ending a campaign or something, and they could even play their actual existing characters, and then like, what happens when your character finds out like the Earth is ending in an hour and a half? What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do?
It's a very indie project though, so it's not meant to be like extremely like detailed. It'll have some structure for people to get started. It'll be very art light, rules light, but very much narrative focused to just give people a chance to kind of do something creative. And then the second project is called Sci-Pups, which is Secret City Investigators of Paranormal. I'm gonna butcher my own name. But it's meant to be convoluted, like it's meant to sound ridiculous. Because and it's kind of like, I just pitched this to somebody. I always like to pitch two like properties together. Like, it's like this meets this.
Yeah.
And I just can't quite put it. But either way, that's gonna be a mystery, like your paranormal investigators and an old abandoned gel in the Appalachian Mountain Valley. And so it's spooky.
What was the name again? What was the name for that?
Let me just go ahead and be a nerd and pull up my word. I should have pulled this up ahead of time.
No, it's fine.
Let me go pull it.
Like Travis said at the beginning of the show, the level of stuff we don't do before our own show is phenomenal. Like, there have been literal times where we sit down and Travis says, "All right, we're live. What do you want to talk about?"
Right.
And it always works out.
It always does, yeah.
So the name was Sci-Pup, and the mascot will be this little like puppy with a detective coat on.
Okay,
it's very cheesy.
The first thing that came to mind, because I thought you said pup, and I was thinking like a cross between Ghostbusters and Paw Patrol. I don't know if you've ever seen the kids cartoon Paw Patrol.
Yeah,
but
it won't be anthropomorphic. It'll be actual human. Gosh, I just pitched, like I was telling Jeannie, I was like, you know what this property is like? It's like Stranger Things meets and I just can't quite place it, but essentially it stands for Secret City Investigators of the Paranormal and Unexplained Phenomena. And what happens is there's a group of teenagers. They live in this old town that only exists because it was like a military town that was owned basically by the Department of Energy. A lot of stuff going on during World War II. Next door to that town, and this is kind of influenced by real world stuff that I've experienced and traveled to, there's an abandoned state penitentiary. It's like right in the butt crack of the Appalachian Mountains. So there's like, it's just like the crossroads of paranormal activity. It's like World War. Yeah. And so what ends up happening though is kids go out there to explore these mysteries as a prank or for fun. but they discover stuff.
Yeah,
So
and then the Wendigo shows up, and it all goes south from there.
basically.
Yeah. Well, now I'm interested in your eventual autobiography,
No.
based off of what I've done. What?
Well, so I took a tour of an abandoned state penitentiary called Brushy Mountain.
Oh my
And
god, it even sounds creepy.
when you go to the website, it's like the headline is like the gates of hell opened in 1861. And I was like, what happens if we interpret that as a literal statement?
Yes.
It's like, this could be really scary and spooky. And then that actually spawned a short story about someone who like told their friend they were just going on the tour to see this museum of a state penitentiary, but they were actually going at night when the jail was closed. They hopped the fence, and but of course, as these things happen in these types of stories, they stumble upon something they shouldn't have. But it's all based around, like, the nerdy aspect of it. It's all based around this cursed deck of playing cards that a inmate had, and it ultimately resulted in some horrible thing that happened that caused the jail to just be abandoned completely because of too many things happening. And so the game is played by using just a single deck of cards. Players will collect items and skills that will help them generate hands of poker, and then your ranking of your hand of poker will help you solve a mystery, essentially. So, like, you know, the better odds of your hand, the better you are going to be solving some clue or something. And so it's all based around this short story of this haunted deck, right? And it's the face cards would be the monsters, and then you're trying to search out a particular face card from the deck. So there's still a lot of stuff to be worked out, but that's the general gist. What I'm most interested in is making these short, like, easy to digest experiences that are maybe gateway games for people who maybe won't sit down to play like a full-fledged role-playing game, but we can still, like, take them through the motions of it. Like, here's your here's your abilities, and here's what you can do. Like, numbers on a page might be scary, but if your item says you have an ace of hearts, oh, okay, so this ace of hearts makes sense for this situation because we need that. And so that's kind of the goal there. Is, like, instead of having numbers, you just have particular cards, and then everyone kind of knows how poker works, essentially. And if you don't, you can tell someone, well, you know, a pair is okay, but two pair is even better.
Better, yeah.
And if you have five of the same color, that's a flush. And so I don't know. It's hopefully going to be a fun introductory game, and again, let people focus on, like, the storytelling aspect of the mysteries of the different characters they're hunting for.
I love it. I think it's so great, and this has been such a wonderful conversation tonight. Like, it has fed my creativity so much.
Good.
And I know we've said it before, but we'll say it again. And I can't speak for Travis, but you've got our support. You've got Two Beards in your corner. Anything you want us involved in, man, you make the call, man.
We'll definitely, like I said, we'll definitely need content for ins and outs. So as we get that off the ground, I think we should have a Two Beards column, you know, of some sort. I can't guarantee it'll be a lot. You know, it may only be twice a year, but we'll do it.
Oh, no, that's fine. It's interesting because a few episodes ago, we did a show where we were talking about the AI generated stuff, you know? And so we put into a prompt, let's create an RPG world for Two Beards play. And it created this whole thing for us. And we were like, holy crap. And so we were like, it's funny if we start building off of this, you know, like, just sort of take this little thing and build off of it. So we
Thank you, Emily. Emily's in my corner over here.
I can't speak for Travis, but I'm going to speak for Travis.
Which I was going to show him this. I still have this little...
I printed off. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got that file somewhere on my computer, but...
which I don't have the beard anymore, which is sad, but...
Yeah,
I use second show and tell item.
Yeah,
but then I had 3 show and tell items. Magazines, the old vintage magazines.
Oh yeah. I used Hero Forge one evening. I was like just messing around with it when it was like a new.
So random, but I have it.
Yeah, and built Phil in Hero Forge and bought the digital file to test out my 3D printer, and there we go.
But when ins and outs gets rolling, I'll definitely, like, if both of you submit something, that's 2 articles right there. And then if we do the Two Beards column, that's 3. Plus, you know, whatever Phil does, that's 4. We've got a book right there. We might be able to do this thing in a quarter. So I've got like 2 artists lined up. I've got, you know, I'm still working on a printer, but depending on how big it is, we may just print them in like the place we normally used to print comic books, which is overseas. But then they'll be like really like fancy schmancy. Yeah. It'll depend, you know, and maybe we'll kickstart the first issue and give people a chance to, like, pre-purchase and support and we'll go from there. Maybe even there might even be a chance for people to like consign, like help pay for some of the original artwork, and then as the reward, you'll get to have the original artwork.
Oh, yeah.
Some of it will be digital, but if there's anything physical, you might receive that, and then you'll be a founding father of the ins and outs booklet. That would be cool.
Oh yeah, that's really dope, and I like that. Man, I don't know. Like my mind's just really now. Like I'm just so excited for everything you guys have got going on, and
it is hard to get focused because it's the ideas, like I said, that's great, but we gotta. My goal is to like keep going to school, get this English degree, and then like roll that into like a real local publishing production company, and hopefully be able to gain some either investors and or some successful Kickstarter projects to be able to pay to produce artwork, because art is like the biggest investment for us. I'm not so much worried about the manufacturing and shipping. That is a big part of it, but because we had a retail business for 10 years, we're pretty familiar with how that goes,
right?
And all the risks associated with it. But consigning all original art, even though I have commissioned quite a bit for Fanaticon and Fanatix, it's still going to be a challenging proposition. But once school's over, we're going to hit the ground running and hopefully go to conventions.
So,
absolutely. So when do you graduate? When are we throwing you a graduation party?
I mean, it's supposed to be, if I don't foresee any other complications unless there's another global emergency, but I think July, it's whatever the summer mini term is my last 2 classes.
All right.
Nice.
So I'm in senior seminar right now, and so I'm reading a bunch of books and had to read Catcher in the Rye. Not a fan. I'll be one of those hipsters. I'll say it. I just I get why it's a notable work. I get why we want to study it, but it's not my favorite voice. I didn't care for it.
American literature is some of my least favorite literature. Just I don't know why. Maybe it's because this is the culture I grew up in. But yeah, like where I grew up, or where I graduated was big on Faulkner. Like they could not sing Faulkner's praises enough. Of course, I was in Mississippi.
Sure.
So they kept talking about it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, if I can never read another piece of Faulkner again, I will just be fine.
It's pretty fun stuff, though. But so hopefully July, and then by July, I would like to have some of those smaller projects done, like the zines. Like I'd like to have the 100 Minutes at the End of the Earth will probably be a Kickstarter, maybe, just because it'll be like maybe a $5, $10, maybe $15 little booklet. I mean, very cheap.
Yeah.
Just something for people to throw in their bag and take with them. And so by July, maybe we'll have one product, and then I'll be done with school, and then we'll really be ramping it up. And Hierophant will hit the ground running in July as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Trey.
No, I talk too much. Go ahead.
You do. Just mess with you. So I'm just gonna kind of shift gears a little bit, just because I feel like I have to ask. Even if it's far future, what you thinking about Fanaticon? Like, what's the life of that? Just because I love it.
Yeah,
I just love it.
I will say that the fact that Fanatix is trying to exist again in some form or fashion bodes well for Fanaticon.
Yeah,
but and we have already talked with the wonderful people of those that are in the mix of these things, and we've talked to some people about the event coming back to Dothan. There's just some challenges. They're remodeling the Civic Center.
Yeah.
And I don't know when that's going to kick off. So as always in Southern Alabama, it's like, where do you host it?
Yeah.
They really want to see it again in downtown, but where, if there's no Civic Center while they're remodeling it? The fate of Fanaticon is going to be basically tied to how well this publishing thing kicks off, because again, I don't want to go down that road again where I start a gaming store and then I start a publishing side project and one of those things doesn't happen. So like I don't want to try this publishing company and then start Fanaticon again too soon and then not successfully run it. And there's some people in town trying to get one off the ground in Enterprise. There's WeevilCon. I don't know if you guys got to go to it. I'd like to talk to them more, to see if they need help. Maybe we can partner up some way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, I'm surprised no one has tried to run an event since we've been gone in Dothan. You know what I mean? It's so strange because we showed it was possible. We had 2,100 people show up downtown.
Oh, you definitely inspired some people. There was one in Brundage Alabama. WonderCon, I think it was called, or MagicCon, something like that.
A MagicCon, the Andalusia
Yeah, it was a
Library, I believe.
MagicCon, and I didn't get to go the last year because my daughter was being born that exact weekend, and now her birthday will forever be in MagicCon weekend. So I don't know if I can ever be involved in that one, but
I will say, like, conventions to me are a lot like ideas. It's like we can always say, like, oh yeah, we want to do that for sure. But then the act of actually doing it again, it's a lot of work.
I imagine.
yeah,
Yeah.
So Fanaticon could be a job too, you know. But if so we're just kind of playing it by ear and seeing what could happen. Oh, I can kind of spoil this though. We have thought about in spirit of the RPG vintage booklets, like doing that, you know, old things like that. We have looked at a potential venue. I won't say what venue yet because I want to kind of keep that hush hush. But what we're looking at doing is instead of just going a full on Fanaticon, doing something even like more intimate and doing like an old school like RPG weekend convention.
Oh,
so it's,
heck yeah.
you know, maybe it's like like maybe only like 200 tickets available total.
Yeah.
And you have to like sign up for games ahead of time. You know, we'll still have a vendor hall. You know, but that's what we may do that in lieu of a giant production. We may just have like a couple key speakers. You know, like, hey, how much is it to get Matt Colville to come talk a panel?
Yeah.
And then, so kind of like quality over quantity. And tickets may be, you know, $60 to $100, but you're going to have, you know, food probably provided with that, and maybe like some intimate talking sessions with very
key... like you said, it's more high quality con interactions. You know, it's not like you not knocking on Dragon Con, but you go to Dragon Con, you're one of tens of thousands of people there.
Right.
You know, you're a drop in the bucket. Whereas this, you pay a little extra, you get a little more for all of that. And the idea of even having like guest dungeon masters in it, have people like bid on an opportunity to sit at certain dungeon masters' table.
Your ticket level would. Yeah, your ticket level would basically denote where you go to play for some of those events. Like you have to add it, like VIP pass. I wanna, you know, obviously the dream would be like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, oh, Matt Mercer's gonna DM a session, you know.
Right. Yeah.
That's probably not gonna happen, but that's right. But hey, there might be you know, you might be able to add on like, oh, I want to play a game with Two Beards play, you know, or, you know, can I pledge at a certain level and be on their live stream, be a guest? I don't know. Yeah. So we are brewing. So that's kind of, instead of saying like Fanaticon's coming back, we're working on like adjacent events that may lead back to it. But we don't want to take away from this effort with the publishing, because I'm telling you, it's already driving me crazy, because like just negotiating emails and artwork commissions, it's like a full-time job, and I'm learning that.
Absolutely.
Quickly.
I would personally be like, and this is tying the publishing part more so into an event like that, but have it more maybe game design focus, where the guests that you do have coming in have a lot of insight of veterans of that area, like Colville or whoever, you know, writers, publishers, other like people,
workshops, game design workshops,
basically. And when it's smaller and intimate like that, intimate like that, you know, there's more picking up the brain and ideas and bumping elbows and stuff like that. I would eat that up. That would be really cool. The trouble with Fanaticon, the big show, what most people remember, the trouble with that is just finding the venue and the right times to do it. So we'll just have to see what happens and what Dothan does with their situation. And then, I mean, it would be easy to run it again in Ozark. You know, I would love to do it again in Ozark. It's, you know, it seems like it's out of the way, but Ozark is a really centrally located area, you know, from Fort Rucker, Troy, but, you know, they really want to see it again in Dothan. And so I can't, like, you know, I don't know. I can't say one way or the other yet. Was it the first one in Ozark?
First one was actually in Dothan at the Clarion Inn and Suites.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking, because Jeremy and I had a booth, because we were trying to, at the time,
server booth.
Yeah, we were trying to run a like a Wiregrass area Minecraft server. Like
I remember that. That's right.
And we did that for a little while.
That's right. You had a table at the Alpha Fanaticon. That's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I've had one at maybe every single one. I can't remember, but yeah. Anyway,
year one was that. Then year two we went to Enterprise. Which was
I might have missed the Enterprise one, because we've done the Dothan ones.
Ozark, and then Ozark again, and then Dothan. We missed a couple years in between because, like, 2016 we opened the coffee shop, and then 2018 we moved locations or something like that. Either way, one day it will return, but it's gonna be, you know, one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And
that's what I more than expected. Yeah. Because you definitely with the spreading the energy out. Like, yes, the publishing thing
You'll lose something. Yeah, you'll lose
sounds
something.
phenomenal, and you are right on the money with, I mean, if you wanted to, the con thing could be a full-time job. Like, even though it's like, that one weekend, I mean, I'm sure that took up your whole year planning and scheduling. And
it's a lot of money too. You
Yeah.
know, it's like if the amount of money it took to throw Fanaticon, you could fully illustrate a couple books. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I could totally see, like, when you get back to that, you'd have to create a whole subdivision of Fanaticon within the company. Like,
I mean, I hope that's
these are
a thing,
these
you know?
people's job. Yeah, and of course we
if
would
anybody
love to get
watching
to that
is
point.
independently wealthy and wants to invest in a creative company, I have no doubt that the community would like provide the demand for every layer of what we're talking about here.
Oh
But,
yeah.
Until I can, until I can get some projects off the ground and get them kind of like generating revenue, we can't really go beyond that yet. So
Yeah,
that's why
you gotta be smart about it.
Fanatix, man. Fanatix was the mothership, as I call it, and then everything
Yep.
else just got paid for by Fanatix. And like for those who may wonder, like, Phil, why didn't you pay yourself more? Why didn't you drive fancy cars? Because we were constantly spending money to like do fun things or
Yeah.
bring in new products. I mean, we grew Fanatics like every year. We tried to do something new. Sometimes to people's, ire. Not everyone was a fan of the skateboarding and disc golf stuff, but those are nerds in their own right. They needed some way to have
Yeah.
their product.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
Now
that,
look at disc golf. That's
that
become huge.
got me
Yeah.
back into skateboarding. Like, I bought the
Oh, yeah,
longboard
that's right.
from you, and I still hop on that thing and skate around the neighborhood just for fun.
Yep.
and
And
I
that,
don't.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I don't think you were ever off the mark though with any of that. I mean, the whole thing, fanatics. You are a fanatic about something. You
Yep.
love something, and we want to help you love your thing. Is really how I always saw it. So you were never far off the mark. It's just it went the way it went.
All right, I'm gonna ask another question. When are we gonna bring back the ramen shop, Phil?
That's funny. 'Cause that only existed for like a week.
Yeah,
in
I
public.
know.
I was so sad when we decided not to do the ramen because that was so
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, we don't have that in Dothan, and I've pitched it to Chelsea a few times because I'm like, you know what, I need to quit my job and just start making ramen because we don't have that in Dothan, not in that capacity.
You want to know what?
We need
so
ramen.
funny?
We need to sell ramen and have like dedicated rooms for people to bring and play D&D and board games, and that's it.
So
And
what's
coffee.
really funny about this is that a few summers ago, I taught myself to make ramen from scratch.
Oh wow.
I don't know. Me and
Okay.
Chelsea have like got in the kitchen together and like have thrown down on some homemade ramen, like legit.
Like I was saying earlier, the ideas are one thing. The work it takes to get something like
Yeah.
that off the ground, though, man, it's
Something else. I always said though, if I could get a food truck and I just did like $5 ramen bowls, I'd make a killing.
we discussed briefly before we got back to Alabama, like reopening Board and Table somewhere, but ultimately I had to choose something, and I chose
Yeah.
school and publishing over anything else because I figured that's just more true to what we're trying to accomplish. So
And I feel like that could be like the trunk of that
Yeah,
puts off a
exactly.
lot of branches.
I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Emily said we should call it Dragon Bowl Z.
Copyright that.
Yeah, exactly. Get it on
Dragon
there.
Ball Z.
And also to give you a little bit of encouragement, she said a few comments ago, she said, as a softcore gamer, this is her own words, as a softcore gamer, I'm most interested in character development, improv humor, and creative problem solving. So those smaller projects pertaining to any of this are going to reach my demographic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we'll
So-
have to send her early copies to test out and see if it's user friendly enough.
Oh, she would love that. She would love that.
Yes, you would.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll work our way up to the bigger projects. We want to start small and intimate and go from there.
Of course. Sounds really good. Well, we don't want to hold you too long. You got anything else you want to get into, Travis?
No, we reaching our hour mark. Oh yeah, with this
Yeah.
one and the other one
And the
over
previous
that,
one. I know
yeah.
this one goes a little bit longer, but hey, I mean, we were excited to talk to you
Yeah.
and share and
Yeah, for
promote
sure.
and do all that stuff.
No, I think you've asked all of our questions.
Good. I did my job.
Well, I appreciate the chance to promote it. I mean, it's still kind of early, so thanks for getting ahead of the curve here and anytime you guys want to chat and have an update or something, just let me know. I'll jump on.
Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll
heck
take
yeah.
you up on that for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, to wrap it up, where can people follow? What do they need to follow you on in the internets?
At Fanatix Publishing should be just about everywhere. At Fanatix Publishing, and then on Facebook and Instagram, we have a Linktree account, which will take you everywhere else to Hierophant at Hierophant Game. And right now, that's it. There's no websites. It's all just community-based social media. So whatever social media you like to use, search us up. We have a YouTube. I'll try to link it in the comments, but most of the videos are old from the store, but I think that's fun. People can kind of see what we used to kind of get into. And then very soon I'll be filming new videos and be uploading to YouTube. So, and we talked about launching the Fanaticast, which is going to be like a little semi-regular podcast similar to what, you guys are trying to do. And hopefully we can reverse this and have you guys on the Fanaticast and go from there once I kind of work out the kinks of podcasting and stuff. So.
Oh yeah, and any information you need from us, we'll share anything we know. It's
Cool.
not a lot, but we'll share it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just search Fanatix Publishing. I think everything got rebranded to Fanatix Publishing, and then our Linktree has everything else. We do have an eBay link, which the proceeds of our eBay goes towards our publishing projects, and all the rare treasures in our eBay are definitely adjacent to things we've talked about. I've got some old RPG magazines on there, some old Warhammer codexes. So
oh yeah,
if
I was
you're
looking at it, and your vintage minis were really cool looking.
Those are like OG. I didn't want to get rid of them, but I'm literally a full-time student trying to get a publishing company off the ground, so
yeah.
I kind of have to sell my 1970 Ralph Partha minis, which I did not want to, but I am keeping the Ralph Partha Red Dragon though. I'm keeping that one.
Oh yeah,
It's huge. It's massive.
You got to
metal
draw the
dragon.
line somewhere.
You still have that dragon head mount somewhere?
One of the good customers got it, so it went to a good home.
Good for
went to
him.
a very good home.
Good for him. I'm
Jason.
not bitter.
Yeah. He's a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Good customer. Jason was a 40K player, and he got that dragon head from us, which was epic, and I'm glad he got it from us. So
Good deal.
it was really hard letting go of all that stuff. I'm telling you, man, it
Oh,
was
I'm sure.
traumatizing.
I remember we came up there to kind of do our part and everything, and I don't want to bring up old hurts, but you seemed sad. You were like, that day I was like,
I mean, it's pretty sad. It's been 3 years now, so I'm in a good place to talk about it. But it was rough. But what are you gonna do? I mean,
it is,
what are you gonna do? You got to make a call and you got to move forward. So that's if anyone can take, the Bible says if you're gonna do something, do it quickly. So we had to make a decision and get going, and that's what we had to do. So we didn't want to drag our feet. We just made the call and worked towards that, and now here we are. But it's kind of led to this place, so hopefully it's all coming full circle, and we'll see what happens.
Oh well, God works all things out for good, man.
Yep.
And that's what we believe, because Lord knows we wouldn't be on YouTube for 5+ years if it wasn't for something good.
It doesn't mean it's and it's like sometimes things that are bad are actually good. Like one of the paraphrasing of one of my favorite scriptures is like you cut off branches sometimes to grow, and so you just have to go with that. I think that's John 15:2. So you just have to roll with the punches and try to learn your lessons, and then all the traumatizing things you go through. And I don't use that word. I'm not trying to be. It's like it is traumatizing, but you can apply those to future projects, and hopefully you get your value back out of it. So
absolutely, 100%.
That's a good note to end on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Well, I've had a great time with this. I hope the people who are watching this, we call them the visual listeners for the podcast. But yeah, make sure that you guys go check out Fanatix Publishing. Follow Phil and everything that he's doing, because it's really great. And we love the nerd community and building community, and Phil and the Fanatix team have always been about that. So you guys can show him some love and follow him and get excited about what he's got going on, because we're going to be involved, and this is not the last time you've heard of Fanatix Phil on Two Beards. I can tell you that.
Woo!
Yeah.
We'll be discussing the Two Beards column in ins and outs.
Hey, I'm down for it. We'll do a whole show if you want to on that. We will live negotiate the terms.
Sweet,
so funny.
sweet. Let's do it.
All right, what else you got, Travis?
No, that's it. I'll wrap us up here.
Yeah.
So if you want, go find Phil and all the things that he said, and also down in the doobly-doo, you can find all of our links, our link to our Patreon, which, as always, we've got some fun tabletop RPG related tiers there that you can get plugged in, and then you help support content like this and me and Trey, and in the future goal of quitting our full-time jobs and becoming full-time dungeon masters and old men. And also go join the Discord, because that's your number one spot to get updates on what we're doing and when we go live and when videos are uploaded, and we don't want you to miss any of that. So that's all I got. Thank you guys for hanging out and being here. And until next time, I'm Travis.
I'm Trey.
More Two Beards Play. We'll see you next time.
Later, guys.